Hello bookworms, I'm Hannah, and this is part 4 of my Bailey's Women's Prize video series in which I review all 16 of the books that were longlisted for this year's prize. If you missed the first 3 parts of this series, I'll provide links to those videos down below. Here's the skinny on this video series. My original plan was to break the long list down into just 4 videos of book reviews, but while I was compiling my thoughts for the last 4 books, I found myself wanting to work in quotes and having more to say because these are wonderful books that I think everyone should consider reading, and I really want to do them justice. Suddenly my 4th video was looking like this enormous beast I'd have to wrangle in terms of recording and editing, so I made an executive decision to break the last video down into 4 individual book reviews, all of which I'll release before the month of May concludes. Out of 16 books on the long list, ranked in order from least to top favorite, today we're talking about number 4 on the list, Hag-Seed by Margaret Atwood, a humorous literary satire of Shakespeare's The Tempest. Hag-Seed was the 4th book released as part of the Hogarth Shakespeare Project, which is a series of books written by acclaimed authors who are each tasked with retelling one of Shakespeare's plays. Just a quick aside, there are 8 books slotted for release in the Hogarth Shakespeare Project, and the one I am most looking forward to is a retelling of Hamlet that's being written by Gillian Flynn. Unfortunately, the release date for that book is sometime in 2021. It's such a long time from now. Moving on. Hag-Seed is about a man named Felix who works as the artistic director of a theater. He is grieving the death of his young daughter while preparing to stage his version of The Tempest, and that's about the time that an unforeseen act of treachery results in Felix losing his position and his dignity. 12 years later, revenge arrives in the form of a teaching position at a nearby prison where Felix plans to finally stage The Tempest and ensnare the traitorous men who were the cause of his ruin. Let's talk about Felix because there is something off about him, and that's what makes him awesome. He's a bit eccentric, to say the least. He's proud, arrogant, and neurotic. After he is wronged and is forced to reinvent his life, Felix transforms into a callous and calculating hermit. Frankly, I found him entertaining both before and after his metamorphosis. Felix sees himself as a man who has fallen, and he didn't trip and stumble. Oh, no. He was pushed from a place of esteem to fall and land at a less than desirable work environment. Atwood's superb writing gives a clear sense of how Felix feels about working at the Fletcher County Correctional Institute. For example, here is how Felix describes walking into the prison. There's a click. The door unlocks and he walks into the warmth and that unique smell. Unfresh paint, faint mildew, unloved food eaten in boredom, and the smell of dejection, the shoulders slumping down, the head bowed, the body caving in upon itself. A meager smell, onion farts, cold, naked feet, damp towels, motherless years. The smell of misery lying over everyone within like an enchantment. The prison becomes Felix's island where the bulk of the story takes place, much like it does in The Tempest. If you're unfamiliar with Shakespeare, or if you've never read or seen The Tempest, that's okay. The synopsis of the play is worked into the narrative, and it's made clear throughout the book where parallels can be drawn between Felix's story and what happened in The Tempest. I'd have been content to read a hilarious parody about a crazed man educating con men in the slammer, but Atwood adds another layer of complexity to the story by capitalizing on Felix being a father in mourning. His grief manifests in, let's just say, unusual ways. The play is not just about revenge for him, it's a homage to his beloved daughter Miranda, whose namesake was derived from the play. Here's a passage that touches on his motives. This Tempest would be brilliant, the best thing he'd ever done. He had been, he realizes now, unhealthily obsessed with it. It was like the Taj Mahal, an ornate mausoleum raised in honor of a beloved shade, or a priceless jeweled casket containing ashes. But more than that, because inside the charmed bubble he was creating, his Miranda would live again. I thought I knew how things would play out in this book, but Atwood went a completely different route than I imagined and opted for full-fledged mayhem. It was a bit chaotic, but thoroughly entertaining, and she tops it all off with an exceptional closing line, something so few authors manage to get right. I really don't know why this book is not on the short list. The only reason I can think of is that maybe it was excluded because it's largely based on someone else's work, but I don't think there's any kind of official rule book that says, "Thou shalt not have thine sublime novel on the short list if it be a pastiche." If there's no rule to that effect, then I have to wonder how an abysmal, boring book like The Dark Circle made it to the shortlist instead of this intelligent, delightful, and entertaining book. I'm looking at you, judges. If you're a Bailey's fan with a busy schedule and you're only picking up shortlist books, make room for this one in your reading lineup. If you've never read Atwood before, like I hadn't prior to picking up this book, this is a great place to start. I will definitely be reading more of her books. If you don't know much about Shakespeare, or even if you're not a particularly big fan of Shakespeare, you will still find plenty to like in this book. In conclusion, Hag-Seed offers the perfect blend of humor and sentiment, and in my heart, it's on the shortlist. If you agree that Hag-Seed should have made it to the shortlist, let me know in the comments or hit that like button. Thanks, everybody!